Exercise is not a key to sustainable weight loss. Surprising, right? Hi, it's Dr. Ginny Trierweiler here of Slender for Good, and I definitely believed exercise was a key to sustainable weight loss. And when it quit seeming to work for me, I got really frustrated and confused. And I finally went directly to the research to look into all this stuff. And there was a lot of surprising findings. The idea that exercise is key to weight loss is a myth. And I'm going to try to show you, what do we know? What's the research tell us about this? Where did we get the idea that this does work? Why are we confused on this point? And what actually does work for healthy, sustainable weight loss? So hang with me to the end, especially if you believe exercise is key to weight loss, because it's certainly good for us, but it is not key to weight loss. And understanding that can really help you do what works and avoid what doesn't work. So we don't want to avoid exercise. Exercise is excellent for our health, right? It's important for us to even walking gives us balance and keeps our brain functioning in so many ways, right? Even when we look at research into learning and memory and thinking, people do better when they're exercising. It helps stave off cognitive diseases like dementia and Alzheimer's. It boosts the immune system. We have a better immune system and stronger heart and stronger muscles and bones when we're exercising. It's important for maintaining balance and coordination. We're going to have better blood pressure if we're exercising. We're going to reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes and stroke and heart attack. So it's really important. And I always believed it's also a key to weight loss. It's promoted in all kinds of articles. It's promoted by the government. It's promoted by our doctors, certainly by the calorie counting things that we wear on our wrists and that are, on the elliptical machine, etc. And there's this idea that humans are just supposed to be moving a lot more. And we're in the industrial age, we're in these sedentary lifestyles and it's killing us, right? It's like smoking, it's killing us. So generally, most of the professionals we turn to, the nutritionists, the doctors, the fitness trainers, etc., promote the importance of exercise for a healthy weight. It may have some contribution, but much smaller than we tend to think. So I'll talk about why I think that is. Exercise and body weight are not as clearly or as powerfully linked as we're led to think. A lot of the research articles end up saying exercise alone is almost useless for long-term weight loss. That's sort of one of the ways of summarizing this. So there was a review of exercise intervention studies that was published about 24 years ago, found that the effects of weight loss from exercise are substantially less than expected, and the amount of exercise energy expenditure had no correlation with weight loss when you look at long-term studies. Even studies of highly controlled scenarios where the diets were kept constant, like we're going to make sure everyone's eating the same, weight loss did not occur with exercise. So one example of a meta-analysis is the Cochrane Review. They looked at 43 studies and almost 3,500 participants. And when they compared people that exercise with the no treatment group, we're not going to have them exercise group, they saw small weight losses across studies, and that was in the 3 to 8 pounds range. It was associated with improved cardiovascular disease risk factors, but weight loss was small or nothing. When we look at a study of people eating the kind of healthy, healthful, slenderful eating approach that I teach in Slender for Good, we found that people lost more weight in the initial weeks if they did not exercise than the people who were exercising. They lost less weight. I'm going to talk about what our understanding is of why these things are happening, but at least one reason there is that changing our eating habits takes real focus and attention. And if our exercise habits also take focus and attention, like I got to get up and get going, we are just depleting our willpower. Dramatic example for me is when we look at the Biggest Loser TV show participants where they did extreme dieting, and an extreme exercise, and they got dramatic weight loss, but it didn't stick. So by 6 years later, their weight had rebounded. And I'm going to talk about what we understand is going on with that next. So why doesn't exercise contribute very much to lasting weight loss? There's a bunch of reasons. I bet you can guess the first one. We tend to eat more. So studies show that exercise makes us more hungry, and we tend to increase our food intake after exercise, which defeats the purpose more than you realize, and I'm going to talk about that. A review of studies from 2012 found that we tend to overestimate how much energy we burn off when we work out, and it tends to trigger a couple of mindsets, a couple of attitudes, like I need more food today because I exercised, and the attitude of I deserve a treat, I deserve a reward. I think that because I exercised, now I can have the donut, whatever. So exercise tends to lead to compensating behaviors and compensating mindsets. I did this healthy thing, so now I can do this less healthy thing. It's a human tendency we want to really intentionally try to change, right? All right, now I want to tell you about a study that points to a different kind of compensation, a physiological compensation in our body. So there was an identical twin study that was published in Obesity Research Journal in 1994. They were sedentary people, and they put them in a research condition where they had a 93-day period of intense exercise, about 2 hours a day, every day, doing stationary bike exercise. And this was with 24-hour supervision. They were fed by nutritionists who were measuring every calorie. And participants did lose weight, but only about 11 pounds on average. We're doing Eating the Slender Way. We typically would see weight loss between 13 and 26 pounds during that kind of period of time without added exercise. So what the researchers observed was they're burning about 22% fewer calories through exercise than we anticipated. So researchers concluded that their metabolic rates had slowed down, their metabolism slowed down, and they were expending less energy outside of their 2-hour daily exercise block. And there's a lot of research showing that our body does do these kind of compensating processes, right? So there are compensatory physiological changes that help us conserve energy. Our bodies are very good at making sure we don't lose weight because our bodies don't think losing weight's a good idea. So metabolic compensation seems to be happening. So on the one hand, we get hungry and we eat more. And on the other hand, our body slows our metabolism, just like what happens when we eat less calories. So it looks like physiologically we slow down after our workout. So we might be fidgeting less, etc. We're burning even less calories when we sleep, when we're exercising. So our bodies are actively fighting our efforts to lose weight there because they think this is how we're going to survive, is by holding on to this fat. We need this fat, right? It's a well-documented effect. It may not be the same for everyone. Here's another way people have looked at this that really surprised them. They looked at the African hunter-gatherer tribe called the Hadza, and they get more physical activity in one day than the average American or European gets in a week. They are out there hunting, they're out there, digging for tubers. They are not sedentary except when they can be, right? So they expected to see this really big difference in energy expenditure between the two, in the calories burned, but it was exactly the same. The Hadza, who are physically active as opposed to us, same amount of calories being burned. And these results keep being found over and over in human studies and animal studies. So it looks like our bodies work this way to keep our energy expenditure within a narrow range. So the idea is the body's trying to defend our particular energy expenditure at the same level, no matter how active we get. So people who look at this say it may explain why increasing exercise is a weight loss strategy that's an exercise in futility. So we still want to exercise, but not as a way of losing weight. It's not going to work that way. So when we look at the Biggest Loser participants, one of the things we see is their metabolisms had vastly slowed down during the study period. So they did force their body to lose weight, but they also forced their body to fight back by slowing metabolism. So they were essentially burning about 500 fewer calories per day than we would expect. And that slowed metabolism persisted even as they slowly regained the weight they lost. It's heartbreaking. Here's another thing that we understand that I think could be helpful for you to understand. We don't burn all of our calories through exercise. In fact, exercise accounts for a small portion of our daily calorie burn. Only 10 to 30% of our total energy expenditure comes from exercise. Didn't know that, right? So 60 to 80% of our energy expenditure is accounted for by our basic metabolic rate, the energy that our body uses for basic functioning when it's at rest, when it's breaking down food, or when we're sleeping, right? Food accounts for 100% of our energy intake, our calorie intake. But exercise accounts for less than 30% of our energy expenditure. Does that make sense? That's why you can't exercise enough to work off the food that you eat. And those calorie burning counters are not honest, are not right. Here's another thing we find in the research is there's not a linear change in energy expenditure. Moderately active people burn more energy than people who are sedentary, about 200 calories more per day. Not that much. Above that, energy that gets used up hits a wall. So even though the Fitbit or whatever machine we're reading says you just keep burning and burning and burning and burning, that's not really how it works in the human body. I find understanding and appreciating the way my body is trying to defend itself against starvation and against excess exercise. I really want to figure out how to help it succeed at helping me feel well and function well, rather than trying to make it let go of the excess calories and the excess fat. So here's the bottom line that the research shows. It's highly unlikely to create a significant calorie deficit through exercise. So exercise is good for you, but it's not going to really help you with weight loss. In theory, it's possible to burn more calories than you eat. But here's what a head of nutrition and health research at the Medical Research Council said. You have to do an awful lot more exercise than most people realize. To burn off an extra 500 calories would take an extra 2 hours of cycling. And that's about the same as 2 donuts. So I've heard this idea that you can't outrun a bad diet. And it seems kind of good. I like how short it is. But here's the thing. I didn't feel like I had a bad diet. And maybe you don't feel like you have a bad diet. Like I have a pretty good diet, but I want exercise to really help me with the weight loss. And it used to seem like it worked. So here's what Dr. Susan Jebb said. Exercise is never going to be an effective way of slimming unless you have the training schedule and the willpower of an Olympic athlete. So it's making sense to me as I read all this research, little by little by little, it's getting into my head. But why do we believe then that exercise is a key to weight loss? So I want to tell you some of the reasons why. There's been a big propaganda campaign that is not helping us, that is propagating this myth. So this idea goes back to 1958, that cutting 500 calories a day will produce 1 pound of weight loss a week. So there's a lot of things that are being sold to us, apps, et cetera, programs that suggest this idea, and it just doesn't prove to be true, right? I just talked about that. But there's big industries and government agencies promoting this idea. So if you think about all the activity trackers and the gyms, et cetera, that are promoting this idea. Well, yeah, they don't have an industry, right? They're not going to be getting all of us out into gyms if we think, it's going to be mostly eating that's going to change our lives, and getting regular exercise like going for walks. Who's going to make money on that? The activity trackers are proven to overestimate calorie deficits caused by exercise. So here's one thing I read. When your fitness tracker tells you you burned 1,200 calories in your 45-minute elliptical session, it's likely closer to you burned 400 to 700 calories, depending on various factors. So this can really lead us to overestimate the effect of exercise on weight loss. And then, like we just saw, lots of times we're going to now eat those 400 to 700 calories to make up for it, or our body's going to slow down our metabolism so we don't burn as much the next time. So there's the activity trackers, the fitness industry, sports franchises, and the weight loss industry all love to promote things like healthier snack alternatives. They're going to make more money off those things and protein and energy drinks and bars than they're going to make off their primary business. And when you look at sports organization sponsorships targeting children, 76% of the products that they're showing, that they're promoting, are unhealthy, ultra-processed, and or sweetened foods. And this link between the non-nutritious food-like substances, look, doesn't this look delicious? And it's packaged as healthy. Linking that with sports and these very admirable sports figures who probably don't eat that stuff, it makes the cheap processed food products seem beneficial, right? If we eat this, maybe we can be that kind of athlete, or at the least that you can run off those excess calories and all will be well, which is just not true. Now, of course, the processed food and beverage industry promote physical activity as the cause and the solution for the obesity epidemic, because we will keep buying their delicious products, delicious non-nutritious products, and just feel we can run it off, right? So, for example, Coca-Cola was recently exposed for funding obesity researchers who emphasize physical activity as the cause and solution for the obesity epidemic. The messaging is deceptive, and it serves the industry while harming us, right? It gives us justification for eating non-nutritious food-like substances, which the corollary of which is that we'll eat inadequate amounts of highly nutritious food. And these are much bigger drivers of the obesity epidemic than the lack of exercise. So yeah, one place I read that was a 500% difference. The research I look at suggests even a bigger difference, right? Then there's dozens of government departments and organizations suggesting increased physical activity to reverse weight gain, which is, I find, really problematic. So there's a lot of evidence that that we're being led into this myth that exercise is going to be key to weight loss. And I really want you to see that this isn't the case. That is not going to be the key to weight loss. It might make some small positive contribution, but the big key to sustainable healthy weight loss is eating the right foods in the right quantities, right? So more than anything else, it's eating like an abundance of highly nutritious whole foods so your body doesn't feel the need to store excess fat. And it's avoiding cravingful, highly processed, non-nutritious food-like substances. It's not looking for the healthier alternative, the things, the chip niffles, the cravingful, highly processed, non-nutritious food-like substances that are promoted and packaged as healthy alternatives. It's eating real, whole, highly nutritious foods and avoiding the non-nutritious stuff. So researchers find over and over that dietary change is a more effective and much more time-efficient strategy for promoting substantial, sustainable weight loss and keeping it. So treat exercise as important for health and for longevity, something to do in as natural a way as possible, especially if you're a woman over 50. But don't treat it as a key for weight loss. Don't use it as a justification for eating the non-nutritious food-like substances that your body doesn't need, that trigger your body to store excess fat. Healthy eating is contributing far more to the proportion of disease worldwide. So when you look at the Global Burden of Disease report, you find that physical inactivity contributes 3.1% to the proportion of disease, while healthy eating contributes 34.6%. So one place I just saw, it's a 500% difference. This is closer to 1,000% difference, right? So incorporate exercise into your weight management plan in a way that doesn't lead to 1 step forward and 3 steps back. I recommend you do not take up an intense exercise routine to lose weight, partly because of the behavioral compensation issues, partly because of the physiological compensation issues, and partly because of psychological issues, like if you're learning to implement truly healthy, slenderful eating, it's going to take effort and attention for a while. It's going to take willpower, and you don't want to be exhausting your willpower doing this thing that works and this other thing that doesn't work at the same time, both of which are taking a lot of energy and attention and willpower. So commit to learning how to reset your weight with healthy eating so that your body is happy. It will cooperate with you. It will release the excess weight because it doesn't feel it has to store excess fat. Only maintain whatever exercise is serving you, right? If you're trying to lose weight, focusing on healthy eating is going to get you way farther than exercising, right? Keep exercise only to the extent that it is not taxing you, that it's not driving you to eat more. And there's good evidence that natural exercise like walking is of more benefit than intensive exercise, especially for women over 50. So my advice to you, focus on eating a lot of whole, highly nutritious foods, probably a lot more than you are. Avoid craving full, highly processed, non-nutritious food-like substances as something that drive excess fat storage. Escape from the idea that non-nutritious foods and drinks are rewards for good behavior or are the best ways to escape uncomfortable feelings. And I know I'm talking about changing your psychology. That's not going to happen just because I tell you that. But I'm telling you, that's a big part of what's going to help you get a breakthrough. And then self-honesty and accountability practices we find really help. So how can I get honest with myself? We tend to be dishonest with ourselves about how much of the non-nutritious foods we're eating. There's research showing this. The more I enjoy something, the more I underreport it and underestimate how much of it I'm eating. So finding ways to be more accountable and more honest with yourself, like writing down your food, right? Maybe weighing yourself once a week to see, okay, am I really doing what I said I'm doing? And is it making a difference for my weight? So I hope that's helpful. I just really want to save people from using weight loss approaches that simply are not going to get you very far and could make things actually harder on you, so that you can finally do, when you push the things out of the way that don't work, you can finally do the things that do work. Let's keep exercise in our lives in a more natural way and do not consider it a key to healthy, sustainable weight loss. Hope that helps. Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. Are you as surprised by this as I was? Do you still doubt that that's the truth? Would you like to see more of this research? Let me know. All right, see ya.